Tomorrow at 6 p.m., I will be featured on episode 27 of Coaster Hour. Check out the description for a further link. What is up, enthusiasts? It is Cedar Flags here, and welcome back to another one of my videos. From the late 1980s to the early 2010s, there was a major period in the coaster industry where parks would try their best to outdo each other in stats. Who could build the tallest coaster in the world? Who could build the fastest in the world? Hoping to gain international attention, parks would keep adding taller, faster rides that would outdo its predecessors. This would be broken year after year after year. By the beginning of the 2010s decade, we've seen less coasters try to achieve stats and more roller coasters try to focus more on the layout. With rides like Maverick at Cedar Point and New Texas Giant at Six Flags Over Texas, we've seen revolutionary rides that don't have the statistics to back it up, but have some amazing world-class elements that are more likely going to be better than its taller predecessors. So today, we are going to talk about the possible return of the Coaster Wars. The last time they broke the record for longest, 2000, fastest, 2010, and tallest, 2005. But a few days ago, we got confirmation on a ride that's going to break all three of those records and absolutely shatter them. This is Cedar Flags, and today, we will be looking at several categories and ask ourselves, are the Coaster Wars going to come back? So, if you don't exactly know what the Coaster Wars are, let me explain a little bit. In 1989, Cedar Point built the one and only Magnum XL 200. This ended up breaking the record as the tallest coaster in the world and the first to go over 200 feet in height. This gained international attention. Everyone knew that Cedar Point was the first to have the coaster over 200 feet. And everyone flocked to the park knowing that they had the world's tallest. Parks saw the potential that they could have with business, and they decided to invest. Parks like Kennywood in West Mifflin, Pennsylvania, Six Flags Magic Mountain, Fuji-Q Highland, Nagashima Spa Land, Cedar Point a few other times, and many other parks decided to jib their attempt at building the world's tallest roller coaster. And all of these parks saw amazing success. A park like Kennywood went from a small family-owned traditional park to one of the most recognizable parks in the United States, just because of one add-on, Steel Phantom. Rides like Millennium Force broke the 300-foot barrier, and then Top Thrill Dragster just 3 years later broke the 400-foot barrier. In 2005, Six Flags Great Adventure built the one and only Kingda Ka. This would be the first coaster to go over the 450 feet mark at 456 feet. The park once again got international attention, but it has been 16 years, and we have not seen a successful attempt at a taller coaster. Still to today, this remains the tallest coaster on Earth. Now when it comes to the fastest, it was broken in 2010 by Formula Rossa at Ferrari World in Abu Dhabi. This still holds the record, and ever since then, there have been none of these records that have been achieved. This must be blamed on some rides like Maverick at Cedar Point that is only about 100 feet tall, but focuses on low-to-the-ground elements. Ever since this time period, coaster enthusiasts much prefer the low-to-the-ground intense experiences than rides with good statistics. So why do I say this era is going to come back, or at least it might? Well, just a few days ago, a project from a few years ago has resurfaced, and we have gotten confirmation that it might be coming. It is the one and only Falcon's Flight at Six Flags Qiddiya. In August of 2019, a major announcement came out of Qiddiya. There was a massive theme park announced, funded by a Saudi Arabian tourism group and sponsored by Six Flags to get more public relation. This was going to be named Six Flags Qiddiya and would feature many record-breaking attractions, such as the world's tallest tilt coaster, the world's tallest shot tower by SNS, and the world's tallest, fastest, and longest coaster known as Falcon's Flight. This would be the headline attraction of the park, and would truly be the star attraction of the world if this was built. Tallest, fastest, and longest? Now I'm not going to base my thoughts off of the rendering because it is a very rough rendering, and just meant to show its incredible height. But from what I could tell, this ride is going to be tall. In fact, people are saying it's going to be around 550 feet tall. People say it's going to be just over 150 miles an hour, and it is going to be 2 miles in track length. Now, these are very rough estimates once again, but if this is true, it's going to be absolutely insane. And we all laughed at this in 2019, if you remember, But a few days ago, the official Six Flags Instagram account approved that this is going to happen, and they are definitely in the plans. Now, this is extremely shocking. One, we didn't think this was going to happen before the pandemic, and after all of the economic decline with the entertainment industry because of this massive event, we thought, oh, no way this is going to resurface. But out of all things to resurface, this resurfaces? Jersey Devil didn't even open on time, and this is? Anyway, I could see the rest of the world reacting to this in a very interesting way. I feel like we've grown kind of jaded to the existence of King Ka. The new car smell is kind of worn off, and Six Flags Great Adventure really doesn't advertise it as the world's tallest anymore, because we all know it, we've all known it for a decade and a half. But once this coaster is built, it's going to get all the hype in the world, and it's going to get tourists from all over the world. And let me tell you right now, this is going to be the most hyped up coaster of the year it comes out in. And other parks are going to see this and think, oh man, we need a bit of that hype, especially after an economic decline like COVID-19. So, the question that you have all been waiting for: do I think that the building of this roller coaster is going to cause other parks to try to build taller and faster rides? I honestly kind of think so, but I don't think immediately. I don't think it is going to be as prevalent as the original Coaster Wars, where the tallest coaster would be built and then the very next year it would be shattered, and then the very next year, in a rapid fire pace, it keeps being shattered. I think in this scenario we could see Falcon's Flight being built, and then other parks seeing the hype it gets and starting the planning phase then. Maybe taking about 4 or 5 years, and then seeing the next tallest coaster. I feel like we can get a second wave of the Coaster Wars, but it would be a lot slower. Maybe rides like 3 or 4 years apart outdoing each other, and outdoing each other at short heights at that. Though after the 2008 financial recession, amusement parks realized that they wanted to be a little more conservative on money, and decided to go with cheaper options. This is one of the reasons why RMC has gotten so successful. But let's talk about RMC. They said that they could do a T-Rex roller coaster that is over 500 feet tall. Now, RMC would definitely be the budget choice compared to a company like B&M or a company like Intamin. And we know that B&M really doesn't take that many risks, so we don't know if they would build something that tall anyway. Anyways, I feel like it would be a good idea if companies would stick to budget manufacturers with this, because even though it's going to be super expensive, well, they could at least try to make it as cheap as possible. So my answer, yes, but not immediately. I think we will see predecessors by the year 2030, assuming Falcon's Flight gets built. Finally, I want to talk about some parks where I could see approaching this record. Now, of course, Six Flags Qiddiya, I really still don't think this is 100% guaranteed going to happen. COVID isn't over necessarily, and if it gets worse or lasts a long time, I don't see this happening for a bit. But Six Flags is really pushing the idea that this is going to happen, even though, let's be honest, this seems very unrealistic. But Six Flags, they've been talking about it, and they are very confident in this project. Anyway, let's talk about some parks that I could see outdoing Falcon's Flight's record. Now, it's really hard to tell what parks would do it, because we really haven't heard about parks talking about if they would or not. We've just had parks focus on, like I said, a better layout and a coaster. Now, there's some budget chains that I really don't see trying this, like Six Flags. Of course, they did just add a B&M Dive to Six Flags Fiesta, but it is a cheaper variant of the B&M Dive, and I don't think that they would try to get experimental enough like the early 2000s, where they would build something taller than 500 feet. The first and most likely park I could see doing this is Energylandia in Poland. We really don't know what this park is going to do next. They are doing something new every few months. This is because they are partially funded by the Polish government for more entertainment pushes, and let me just say, this park is growing every single year. We went from an Intamin Hyper to an RMC Hybrid to 2 Vekoma launch coasters, and much more coming in the future. There is another water park being built, there are more hotels around being built. This place is growing fast, and I could see the world's tallest coaster being built here, honestly. Maybe something like what we saw in an attempt at a polar coaster, one of the unsuccessful attempts since 2005, and I could probably see it in the back portion of the park near Zadra. Now, I don't necessarily think that this would be my number one choice, but it's hard to tell because the tallest ride in the park is only around 250 feet, and this would mean that it would be twice as tall as the already existing tallest attraction, and let's be honest, that would look a little bizarre. The next park I want to talk about is a chain in China. These are the Wanda parks. Not to be confused with the Happy Valley parks, I personally think that the Wanda parks are a little more creative with their designs. They are home to parks with rides like Coasting Through the Clouds, which is one of the most critically acclaimed Chinese roller coasters in the country. And let me just say, I think that they could attempt something like a 500-footer. Now, China has been very creative with their coaster designs lately, so I could definitely see it. Now, us Americans really don't have much to base off of. We have really been focusing on a budget. But the company I could see doing this the most would be Cedar Fair. I really don't see SeaWorld doing this because, first of all, they seem to focus more on rides that would appeal to families and, of course, the general public at the most. And second off, we saw something like Drakenspear. I don't think they're going to attempt something like that again after the negative reception, even though that was just a flawed layout. Anyway, I think Cedar Fair could attempt this. Cedar Fair could do something like a 500-foot coaster at one of their parks. Now, what park? I think one possible idea is King's Dominion. They have so much unused land, especially near Volcano. They could go beside Intimidator 305. I think that would be a great idea, but at the same time, the location is less desirable than they thought. So, some other parks I could see it at, Carowinds would be very desirable. I have said in the past that I don't think they will ever beat Fury 325 with the current land that they have, but let's give them a shot. Cedar Point is of course another viable option, but they are extremely landlocked and I really don't see where they could build a 500-foot coaster. Another park I could see, and I could see the most, would probably be Kings Island, but a problem with that is that Kings Island likes the Eiffel Tower to be one of the tallest rides in the park, and the Eiffel Tower would look pretty small compared to a 500-foot B&M. So what do you think about this? Do you think the Coaster Wars are on its way back? Do you think there will be a second wave of coasters trying to outdo each other in these stats? Let me know down in the comments below. This is Cedar Flags, and I will see you all later.